This is example 7 from section 4.2. I'm doing it also as per the request. In order to find the zeros of a given solution, the polynomial given to me is x to the fourth minus x cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8 equal to 0. Again, as the part of the first step here, I'm looking for the number of positive, negative, and complex zeros. Because the polynomial lists degree 4, I know the total has to be 4 zeros. So first I am seeing the number of sign changes in the given polynomial, and it is 3. So that is telling me one of the possibility is I can have 3 positive zeros. And then I'm finding the value of f of negative x, and I'm seeing just one sign change here. So this is telling me that I can have 1 negative 0. Okay, in that case, the first combination will have 0 complex zeros. Okay, again, according to Descartes' rule, the total number of zeros should be less than the even integer, either the number of sign changes or the number less than an even integer. So in that case, my negative is still going to stay as 1, but my positive can go down 3 minus 2, which would be 1. In that case, 2 has to be complex because my 4 is total. So in this case, it's very explicit that we may end up with some complex zeros, which is not what we are looking for. So technically, the answer here will be only 2 zeros. If it is in the second category, I might have 1 positive 0 and 1 negative 0. Or the other option is I can have 3 positive 0 and 1 negative 0. Again, I won't know this until I start working this problem out. But for sure I know that if I find 1 negative 0, then and if I find at least 1 positive 0, then it has to be on the first category and not on the second. More than 1 positive 0. Okay, so this is the first step to the problem, and the next step is to list the potential zeros. So that was step 2 that we wrote, to list the potential zeros. Again, the list is all the possible factors of the constant term, which is p, divided by all the factors of q, which is the leading coefficient. In this case, my constant term is 8. Again, it's just take the sign, ignore the sign, just take the number 8 because we will be including positive negative here. And the leading coefficient is 1. So therefore, my factors of 8 are plus some minus 1, plus some minus 2, plus some minus 4, and plus some minus 8, divided by factors of 1 is just 1. So this is listing me the possibilities. Either I can have plus 1 or minus 1, or I can have plus 2 or minus 2, or I can have plus 4 or minus 4, or I could have plus 8 or minus 8 if I take the fraction, and because it's 1 on the bottom, it has to be this list. So this is clear that if my final answer is going to be in category 1, then I have all 4 zeros in this list. But if it is from the second column, the category 2, then at least 2 of this is here, which means 1 should be on the positive and 1 should be on the negative. Again, we'll figure that out after we finish the problem, coming back and checking if we have those zeros here. Okay, so the next step is to figure out the first zero. Again, as I told you, I'm going to use my calculator. We can also use remainder theorem, but I'm going to use calculator here and going to plug in the given function x to the power of 4 minus x cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8. And again, because it's spread positive and negative, I'm going to keep the standard viewing window on negative 10, 10, and also the zeros are maximum 8 and minimum negative 8. So the 10 to 10 would be fine. And this is also going to be negative 10 to 10. Now I'm going to hit graph. Okay, so one thing is very explicit. I'm seeing a negative 0 here, a negative 0 on the left, and a positive 0 here. So these are the two values that I'm seeing, 1 and negative 1. And that's all it's asking for. But we will cross check and verify that this 2 is actually not complex and it's still real. So I need to verify these two. So first, let me start with my left hand side here. So it looks like this is like a negative 1. Let me cross check it. Like one option I can do is I can go to 0 and then I can click left bound, which means I can go to that side, enter, I can go to right bound, enter, and then look for, that is a 0. Negative 1 is a 0. So with that information, I am going to take this polynomial and divide it x equals negative 1. So let me write here. X equals negative 1 is a 0. Therefore, I'm going to take the polynomial and do synthetic division. So the polynomial is 1, negative 1, 2, negative 4, and negative 8 divided by negative 1. 1 times negative 1, this would be negative 2, positive 2, 4, negative 4, negative 8, positive 8, and that's a 0. So this is giving me a polynomial f of x equals x to the third minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 8. Now at this point here I can think of different options, like if you can recognize I can factor this, you can do factoring. Like if you want to look through it further and see if you can group and factor the first two terms, I can factor out an x squared. The last two terms I can factor out an x, and I'm seeing a factor of x minus 2. So factoring is one of the tools that will help us do many problems. So for this particular problem, rather than going back and going through the same process as we did before, I think factoring would be better. So let me try factoring first, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to come back and start this process all over again. Okay, so for that, it's 0 is equal to x cubed minus 2x squared plus 4x minus 8. And I know I've learned in factoring, if I have 4 terms, then I have to think of grouping. So I'm going to group the first two together. I'm going to group the last two together. And 4x, I'll write that here. 4x minus 8. Now when I group the first two, I know I can factor out an x squared from here, which is going to make it an x minus 2. And then if I factor out a 2 from here, 4 from here, it's going to make an x minus 2 in parentheses. Now I have a common binomial factor of x minus 2. So if I factor that out, I'm going to get an x squared plus 4. So right now my polynomial is in a factored form. The given question is x plus 1, because x equals negative 1 is a 0. Then I have an x minus 2, and then I have an x squared plus 4. This is my question in factored form. Okay, so from here it's very clear that at this point x minus 2 should be 0, therefore x equals 2. But if I take this quantity x squared plus 4 equal to 0, I will have x squared is negative 4, or x equals positive negative square root of negative 4, which is a positive negative 2i. So this is my complex answer. So if I go back to my Descartes rule that I already listed, that this particular problem is in the second category but I should have one real zero, like positive real zero, which is 2. Then I should have one negative zero, which is negative 1. And then the 2 is complex, that's what I'm seeing here. But if I go back to the question is asking me, find the real solutions of the equation. Therefore, the answer to this problem is x equals negative 1 and x equals positive 2. Now, just to say one more time, if I go back and look at the list of potential zeros that I wrote, I am seeing negative 1 here and positive 2 there. So it's already in the list. I hope you all understood this problem.